Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of my live cash game Play and Explain series. At the moment, we have a table of 2k in the top left, a table of 1k in the bottom left, and two tables of 500 on the right hand side. Just started our session, played a few hands on most tables. We're still trying to work out if there are any recreationals on the tables at the moment. We think that this player 5, might be recreational just based on some of his actions, some timing tells as well, just making some really snappy decisions where most regs are probably going to take their time or take a little bit more time. Also got this player opening 3 big blinds from the low jack, which is pretty non-standard amongst most regs. We'll give him the light blue tag is sort of the deciding whether they're recreational or not, rather than going out and saying 100% that they're recreational. Obviously going to throw back the ace king. And take it down. Old king 8 off. Old 7-10 suited, and we've got pocket 10s in the top right. We have another sort of 3 big blind open from the low jack. Pocket 10s here, we can either flat or 3-bet. I think we might have some leaning towards flatting here just because we've got a presumed recreational in the big blind who would like to come along as well. King 9-9, so here in this position we're going to be playing small bets and checks, multi-way, just generally want to be using small bet sizes. I imagine we could go for a, betting 10s is okay here. I don't think we're not allowed to, but I'd imagine this is just going to be high frequency check. Checks through a second time. I think we should now start stabbing. There's a couple of purposes. We can get called by 8s through 2s at some non-zero frequency. And then there's also some Broadway holdings like Queen Jack, Queen 10, Jack 10 that might call, as well as occasionally some ace high. Slash, we're also just cleaning out equity when we get 2 folds. Still going to be using a small sizing here. Going to 3-bet the 8-7 off. Do take it down with the 10s. And it just defends ace 8. We flop 2 pair, which is pretty nice. So I think on this board, probably going to play half pot and check. We do need to do a fair bit of checking just with our range because we are quite polar. I would assume that 8-7 off here, bottom 2 pair, wants to mainly be in the betting line. Just to rush sort of pot growth whilst our hand is still strong. There is kind of the counter argument of maybe it goes in the checking line more often because it's not a hand that on every run out we want to play for stacks. So maybe it's you wait till you actually see a cleaner turn before you start piling in money. I think that could also be a valid argument. I'm not entirely sure how we want to proceed with that hand. I imagine just a mix across E50 and check is going to be fine. So bottom left, this has gone check on flop. I think we've got a pure continue here with ace high, which can be good, and also a flush draw to go with it. Also half pot is not, a super strong sizing from villain there. We're about the eights, open the king nine suited. And then we face, I'm just opening up the calculator. I just want to calculate pot odds. I imagine this is B75. I generally, look at whether there's any specific sizing tells as to whether someone's hit a hotkey or whether they've adjusted a hotkey. This is just exactly on 75% pot. I don't think we can ever call on this triple Broadway. It's just whether we can ever get away with raise. I think our hand is okay to raise. And I don't think B75 here is super nutted. I am going to go for raise. I think this is like mainly a value region, but I think it's mainly a value region that we can get folds from. Is basically what I've gone with there. So like, I don't really care whether my hand is, an amazing candidate that should be raising at any frequency there. I'm just reading into sort of villain sizing structure and sort of saying, I don't trust that he's taken this line with enough of his top end value region. And if ultimately he doesn't have his top end value region, if you then put, a decent amount of pressure on that range, then, a large portion of the range is going to have to fold. So I have no idea if ace eight there is supposed to be a raise in theory at all. Like it seems okay. We block some straights, we block some, strong top pair top kickers, and we block some flushes. But like it doesn't seem like a pure combo to go with by any means. Slash, we have to be reasonably conservative on the triple Broadway. But yeah, I think we're just going to get enough overfolds from villain's value region there. Also exploiting the fact that like still in most pools people see raise on river and just immediately go, okay, well raise on river is underbluffed, so we can kind of be the wolf in sheep's clothing, and if we raise river as a bluff more often, then we're more likely to get away with it because the general view is that population is under bluff raising those rivers. I'm forgetting whether this is whether this play was the big blind. I'm not sure if this is small blind, big blind, or like cut off versus small blind. I'm just gonna check because I have missed the action. And here, this is pretty marginal. I think we do have to defend, but it's pretty gross. Maybe we don't have to defend after he's raising into a cold four better. Like this might well be a GTO. Yeah, I think I'm actually gonna fold. Like I think this is probably break even in GTO, but then accounting for the fact that villains are probably not finding any bluffs here, particularly with the player behind, I think we just let it go. I'm gonna certainly start with call here versus B75. And on the straight completing river, I mean, I feel actually worse now that he's checked. Like we probably lose much more often of the time, but we're also never turning this hand into a bluff. I was certainly going to consider heroing down versus river bet as well, because I don't expect villains to value bet thin enough. Like I don't expect, if we had faced a bet here, I don't expect it to be queen X. Now that we face check, I expect there to be a fair amount of queen X in his region. But I do think we're just like too high up in our showdown value to bluff. Pocket tens like makes perfect sense. But yeah, I don't think I expect villains to value bet thin enough there. So then when they bet into the four straight, I'm kind of suspicious as to like whether they actually are carrying enough value combos through to the river. Hence why I was considering heroing a river, and then actually feel quite bad when he checks. Jack 10 8 with a 6. I am going to go for a small bet. Like, I don't think we get to bet this hand pure. I imagine we have to mix checks with this, but probably expecting the pool to still just overfold versus aggression here. So I might just like see if we can get some aggression through. Obviously versus raise just going to be a clear fold. Yeah, blind v blind is still a spot where, if villains don't know how wide the ranges are, can be a hard spot to defend appropriately. So, if we do just, put the hammer down and barrel 3 straights in a lot more spots than we should, that can work out quite well for us. Back 10 here, no backdoor, but versus the tiny size, I think we do have to continue. Particularly against a player who, when we sort of like turn a top pair, are probably going to blast off into us and we're going to make a decent amount of money. Again, a spot where like I'm a bit suspicious if he's like betting twice into here. Do we want to, versus this size? It's like, can we just check raise here and bet river and get him to fold range or most of range? I think there's a good chance of it. And we have 2 blockers, which when we raise turn here, when we raise turn, we're going to fold out all his queen 10, queen jack, king 10 combos. So when we river a jack or a 10, we're actually like generally going to have the best hand. So by raising now, it also means that our sort of outs are much more live. I am not sure whether I want to continue the story on the ace. There are a lot of quite visible draws which missed, namely spades, 7, 8, 4, 5, all missed. Do I think he bets much ace X though on the turn for that sizing? Probably not. I think then, he probably doesn't have much ace X in region. Probably does mean he has, a value candidate. And I guess the question is, can we bluff it off? I'm going to go for it. I don't think his turn sizing is like a strong hand, right? I think this is 9x at best. And so we're just like trying to pile in aggression against what we perceive to be like quite a capped range. Let's try not to bet all in on the flop here. Aces, we're going to start with check. I think, against a, fish who's probably, looking like they're overstabbing, I think we are always going to get a bet out of them when we check here. So we're going to prefer playing in this way than just like betting ourselves, because now we have the option of either raise to build pot growth immediately. It is, a little bit dicey. Like, does this hand want to play for stacks? Not on a heap of runouts. So if we build pot growth now, it can get a little bit dodgy for us. I think versus a recreational though, I think there are enough like pair plus, queen 9, 8 9, 8 10 kind of hands, which are all going to continue versus raise. So I think we will go for it. And if we see a fairly quick raise, a fairly quick call, I'm going to be fairly confident that we've got the best hand, which we do, and we get a pretty clean turn. So now it's, I think, if the river comes a 2 of spades, well, obviously if it pairs the board like on a 2, then we're really happy because we beat all of his 2 pairs. But sorry, if it comes like a 3 of spades, I think this is a hand that can, be all in on river. But there are a lot of rivers that we need to be careful of. So I guess the question is, how aggressive do we think he's going to be on turn? If we can get him to reopen turn here, and then we can sort of jam over the top, I'm quite happy with that structure. But I also don't want this to go check check. I'm just going to go B75, and we'll have to, either shut down on river or fire off. I think versus the really quick call, like that's a really good sign for us. We're going to be up against a lot of queen jack, queen 10, queen 9 type hands. The 6 doesn't change a whole heap. Like, yes, there's 9 10. That's kind of it that gets there. So we will just go for jam. I'm going to start with call up the top here. This is like getting towards thin, but I think it's okay. We are going to lose to 2 pair sometimes. We do take it down. We'll take a look what he had. Yeah, he just had queen three of spades, so just like a fish that can't fold top pair. We will go for a small bet with range on this double paired board, and I think we'll check and decide whether we want to hero river. We can hero or raise. Do the really quick bet. Going to be a decent candidate to raise. It's just how much showdown value do we have that we're forgoing by so calling bottom left. Like we only need to win 20% of the time. Will he fold ace X when we raise here? Unclear to me. Like we kind of need him to fold ace X. Probably have to raise quite big. I think we'll go for it. We block all of his best hands. Like I think it's a good candidate in theory. It's just a question of in practice, do villains fold ace X here? And if he just like snaps me off with ace 7 or something, then it's pretty sad. So we get continued aggression from villain here. So obviously our 7x is like a decent combo to call down with. Like we block pocket 7s, which is like going to be one of his prime raising candidates. But obviously he can just be raising a king here. We also see a, it's not a, I was looking at whether this was like just pure $100, which is sometimes a hell of a recreational. Just given he's also raised like one C bet already, like there's a small leaning that he's going to be on the more aggressive side. I'm going to call twice here. Pretty good river, so we can certainly consider hero on this river. It's kind of hard for him to bluff three streets though, because we just have so much king X. So like, hence why you see a really quick give up from him, because, you know, like he's, yeah, okay, he's just got 10-2 of spades. So he rivered a 2, but was just raising with nothing going on. So I think I read like that this guy, you know, fairly on the aggressive side was the right read. So again, just like made that off a really small sample, and it's probably not, you know, it's not going to be that accurate, but it's better than nothing. So, you know, when like it's not always going to lead us in the right decision, and we don't want to put a huge amount of weight on it. But when we have a marginal hand that blocks his pocket 7s and is like an okay candidate to continue in theory, we're sort of like leaning, using that decision to like push us towards falling all our bluff catches. I think I'm going to sit out of the 2K table. We didn't quite get there in time. We're going to play another orbit. Like, yes, this guy, I don't know, he's playing a high V pips, as is the guy on my right, but we're also playing short, so, like, doesn't really mean much. Going to 3-bet the Jack 7 suited. These kind of, I don't know, middling connected suited cards do want to play some 3-bets out of the big blind as part of, like, our polar strategy. And I think is generally going to perform better than call. This guy's been fairly tight, so like fairly conscious that we're running into quite a strong range here. I'm going to sit out down the bottom left, just because we don't really want to play heads up. And so we see ace 10 8. I think it's a pretty good candidate to bet half pot with. Like again, I don't want to be betting my whole range here, just given that I'm polar out of the big blinds. But like it's a reasonably favorable board, and we have like a decent amount going for us. I am like reasonably, I mean, it's kind of the gin, pretty much the gin turn for us. Pretty dicey in that we don't really want to bet 40 big blinds here and get shoved on, because I don't know if we're getting the right price to call it off. So I think with this hand, I'm probably just going to play pure check. and then we can either check call or check shove. Just because I think when we're betting here, we're probably going to be using large sizes, and this hand's going to probably perform quite poorly when placed into a large sizing structure, because when we get jammed on, which like he's going to do with a bunch of his ace queens, or at least he has the option to, then we're like, we put ourselves in a pretty disastrous spot. Whereas when we face this like half pot, now I think we can credibly jam sort of our ace queen region, our ace 10 region, pocket eights, pocket tens, particularly once we've given away the initiative. Like those hands don't really want to just call this bet and then like, give him a free river, which he can then also just check back on. So I think we have a lot of credible jams here. We are just going to run into ace queen and we'll have to roll the cards, but we have plenty of equity when called. We do run into the pocket tens and we don't get there, which is fine. Obviously, gonna happen sometimes. I think happy with the way we played that hand though. Like I think if we'd bet sort of 2/3 on the turn and then gotten jammed on, probably putting ourselves in a worse spot um playing it the way we did. Like ultimately on that turn, like we're just gonna end up piling the money in with our hand and have plenty of equity. We face the 3-bet to 8 big blinds. Just going to start with a call here. And we're also going to sit out of this table. Like I'm also like a little bit conscious that 8 big blinds is also the sizing that bots within Ignition have also used as in terms of 3-bets from the big blind. So like there's a chance that I'm playing against a bot here, which obviously I'm not gonna do well against. So regardless of whether he is or he isn't a bot, right? Like I'm probably just gonna sit out of the table because I don't want to be taking the chance that he is. Not that I've been paying particular attention to how this player's been playing otherwise. Just like an 8 big blind 3-bet sizing isn't a typical standard sizing that you see regs do. With this hand specifically, I don't think we can continue. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm overfolding, but I think I'm also happy to overfold given that, if we are running into a bot here, they're going to play perfectly against us. And, like, we're not going to make a huge amount of EV with that hand. I think I'm pretty happy to just let it go and leave that table. Again, I have no idea if that's actually a bot. It's just like, didn't look like an amazing spot anyway. And so that extra likelihood leads me towards just wanting to A, sit out, and B, not involve myself in a huge pot there. Certainly going to throw out the kings, particularly after he's just seen us turn up with Jack 7 suited, which is a sort of hand that, the tighter regs aren't going to find from the big blind. Unfortunately, don't get him to bite. Got this guy flatting out of the big blind. Like, yes, he seems much looser, but I don't know. It's not clear to me that he's punting away money to us. Ace 3 suited. We can call, we can 3-bet. Gonna go for a 3-bet. Take it down. We've got, a short stack in this new table at the top right, so possibly recreational. Slash, she has an auto topped up, so yep, much more likely that he's recreational. And this was the player who caught us down with the queen deuce. So happy to just like tag him as a calling station. Go with 3-bet with the queen jack. We can also call, particularly versus 2 big blinds. Might actually go for the call. Just because, like, after we 3-bet the first hand, when we 3-bet the second hand, there's probably more of a chance that we face 4-bet, like a slightly elevated chance. And when we know call is going to be the same EV, probably just want to, like, remove that option off the table of getting 4-bet when our queen jack is going to play obviously terribly against 4-bet because we're just going to be faced to fold, and it's going to have a hand which going to be a hand which has a lot of playability post flop. Okay, so we see check, check, check on the flop. So when we are deciding to open here, we're going to open really polar. This seems an optional spot. I am going to go for it. It's like, I don't know, the big blind can have some 4x, and we really don't have much 4x here. Like, we're basing this around our strong ace-x. That's going to be betting, and like pocket 10s if we ever get there with pocket 10s. So I'm not sure if it makes 100% sense with, you're betting into the big blind who's still uncapped because they're just like checking to the aggressor. And so it might be a bit of a disaster to like B175 into a range that can still contain 4x. So not 100% sure about that, but just like taking advantage of the fact that I don't expect player 5 to be adequately protecting their sort of flop checking range. After this has gone check check and we turn the ace, which gives us 2-pair, certainly going to be playing this turn aggressively. Gonna go for close to B300 or right on B300. That sizing structure is going to perform really well against his like turned ace-x as well. Like, what's he going to do? Is he just going to fold 1-pair? Is he just going to fold his turned ace-x versus B300? Probably unlikely. I'm not actually sure. I imagine he's supposed to find some folds with his ace-x versus B300. Like, that's presumably how the ranges are going to work. Just because I'm, have all the top end ace-x, and so he has to start folding a bunch of his marginal ace-x. But it's really counterintuitive for you to turn top pair and then fold to a single bet. So I'm sort of taking advantage of that fact that I think people are going to underfold versus B300 there. I thought I'd click sit out, but clearly I must have clicked that I don't want to sit out. I don't know. Looks like we're playing another orbit. Hopefully we don't lose another stack. Place B75. I think we do have to call once. I don't really want to raise versus this size. Like, this is much less of an indication. Generally people aren't betting range for B75 or B66 or whatever this is. So when they're not betting range, they're generally more equity driven, tilted towards stronger hands. And so our check raise here is going to perform less well. So probably just check folding turn now. A really quick check. I imagine we should open this action here. I'm not 100% sure whether it's mandatory. It probably is mandatory to bluff queen high here. We have a whole bunch of 9x which we've got, which he may have, but he probably doesn't bet B75 or B66 on the flop with much 9x. So I think we're going to have that advantage. We're not folding any 9x on the flop. So I am going to go for it. And I think we can also bet King X in this size. I mean, he's got a trivial call with all his King X. It's just whether we ever get, heroed by, ace high type hands, pocket seven type hands that, you know, that flop for whatever reason and don't believe us. Because we do have, yeah, Queen Jack, Queen 10, Jack 10, which we may well just bet pure on the river there. So that's, 48 combos of bluffs, which is a lot of bluffs. Yeah, so if you're against a thinking villain, they may choose to hero you down like really wide there. Which is certainly something that I'd be looking to do. Yeah, we've got a really snap call. And we see Jack 10-6. I think versus the snap call, I'm just inclined to keep putting money in myself. He's probably got a good hand that he's not going to fold to one bet. And also he's probably got less like nutted hands. I mean, he's probably got jacks and tens in range, which are presumably going to put money in themselves. But when people are like snap falling, they're like may also be snap checking more often, would be my perspective. Basically, I guess I'm trying to say that I don't expect this person to be super aggressive against us. So I want us to just like pile in the money. Do a really quick call. Turn is really bad. Not only because we lose to the ace X, but also we have king queen, right? Like we have the we block the queen high flushes. So the best he can have here that's calling us is the 9 high flush. It's going to be quite hard to get called against. And like what like 9x of diamond combos does he have? Not many. So I think like we are trying to get called by a set here, essentially. I don't think a set's ever going to reopen, so we need to do the betting ourselves. But I guess we just like bet small. I guess we just bet small. Well, pretty quick. I'm imagining he just got a set. Um, then it's just a question of whether could we have bet any bigger to get called. 210 versus the min open, we probably need to defend. Salvo check. Didn't show me what he had. Okay, he had pocket eights, so he did have both a straight and a flush. Not a straight flush though. I mean, I guess that's a reasonable hand for him to turn up with. I think we want to sit out of this 2K table. I know I've been back and forth. I'm just like looking at this player. I might just like sit around and watch this player a little bit who's just joined the table. Certainly going to defend the 3-bet versus 8 big blinds. We could also consider 4-bet. Probably don't want to when we're slightly deeper though with pocket nines. And just going to check. We don't win here a heap of the time, but we win sometimes. River Jack. Opening up the 7-6. Okay, so we saw a really small 3-bet, which is going to mean that he's got a generally wider range. I also think most people probably aren't 3-betting ace king to that sort of sizing. Like generally they're going to go bigger. Like, I mean, if he's 3-betting his whole range to that size, then whatever. Obviously, he's got ace king in there. Just think like if people are ever looking at their hand and choosing the specific sizing, ace king generally goes bigger. Certainly have a mandatory continue as I see it. The king X, whilst it is good for his range, also means like gives him more incentive to just like bluff off. I'm pretty tempted to just like put the hero cape on and call down. I'm gonna start with third pot on the queen 10-8. Again, like I don't think we get to bet range here, but we're probably banking on overfolds. on the turn completing the flush, also completing some trips for opponent. I don't think our hand really has any business continuing here. Like, yes, we block some ace-queen combos, but ace-queen's never in range. Like, I think our hand is just pretty poor. So just going to check and give up. So we see this really weird bet. And we value raise. I don't want to get reshoved on, but I think I do want to just like click this. We will B125 this flop and just folding the ace-3 here. Like, I don't really know what this bet on the river is. Like, his hand, like, his top of range is good enough to just, like, pile in money. So, I don't know. When he bets, like, 10% pot, like, I don't know. Pretty weird line from Villain. Don't think it's a particularly strong line. Let's see if we can get any better tables up. Three-way on 9-7-3, pretty much just going to check range here. We have a candidate that can certainly continue if we faced a bet on the flop and can continue with either call or raise. We don't turn any additional equity. Slash, we don't have any additional equity beyond our pair draw now. But I think it is okay to open here. Again, this is one of the nice things where we overbet here. We are going to clean out all the like king 10, queen jack, king queen combos that beat our sort of rivered top pair. After we overbet and get a pretty quick call, paired river, I imagine that this paired river is going to be underfolded, particularly when Villain's called from the button when he had a player behind him. I imagine we're like into a reasonably strong range, which is going to contain 9x, 7x, pocket sixes, pocket eights, which really I don't think are going to fold to any sort of sizing that we pick here. Like, sure, maybe if we jammed, maybe it would perform okay. But even then, I think we're going to get heroed at some reasonable frequency. Yeah, I think after we overbet, we probably just have to give it up. I mean, it is interesting as to like at what point do we get fold equity from pocket sixes, right? Because his hand is pretty face up to being that. So, if we're pretty confident he's got a hand like pocket sixes or pocket eights, we should in theory be able to just like choose a sizing that we expect that range to fold. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm not even sure how well like all in is going to perform against that range. Like people can just get sticky and call pocket sixes there. That's all in. I'm not, yeah, not confident that it's going to perform super well. So hence the give up. We see 6-6-10 face third pot. Like I'm going to try and punish this sizing in general, just like against a lot of population with lots of check raise on flop when I have nothing. Certainly going to do that with the top end of our 6x as well. It's just a mandatory raise because we need to, like, if we just call, we're going to really struggle to build pot growth. This is a hand that wants to play for stacks almost all of the time. So we're probably just going to B100, turn, and jam river. Seems like a reasonable way to play the hand. Getting really quick calls, so pretty comfortable. We've got the best hand here. Like this is again just 10x that some parts of population aren't going to be able to fold. Um, yeah, so just like very clear decisions here. And we'll leave it in his court as to whether he wants to call us. And obviously, hope that we don't running into pocket 10s or pocket 9s or pocket 4s or anything. Take it down. Yeah, okay, just stationed with pocket jacks, which is like pretty bad combo to station with would be my immediate reflections. Like it's worse than 10x because he doesn't block our pocket 10s. And I'm never taking that line with ace 10. Like it's too thin to play for stacks would be my view. Yeah. So like I think jacks is just worse than any 10x. Starting with a check on 10-9-8 from the big blind versus button, see a really snappy check. 4 straight completes, we're going to have all the 7x. I don't expect villains to ever sort of reopen this hand with a bluff. And I do think we can get some value. There's going to be some like king 10, queen 10, jack 10, ace 9, ace 8 type hands, which are all going to call at least one bet. I think I'm going to be 33 or sorry, B25 and possibly even B25 river as well. And just get like some super thin value. Or not super thin, but thin. Got this guy posting, which we'll take note of. Throw about the kings in the bottom left. And opening the ace queen. Just realized we've gone slightly longer than we normally do, so we will probably wrap it up after these couple of hands finish up. Obviously not great seeing the ace on the flop on ace 9-6. Again, not a board that we necessarily want to range bet. Like the board is fine for us, but it's not as good as sort of double Broadway boards. So I don't think we need to range bet, and kings is going to make a good check. In that we, there's no need to protect from. There's no further overcards that can come on the turn, right? Whereas like pocket jacks is going to be a better bet here because we get some additional value from protecting against king x and queen x coming on the turn. So pocket kings is going to be a good check here. As to whether it's a good call down candidate, I generally prefer queens just because queens are going to block more ace queen combos. Whereas kings, like in theory, he can have ace king in range, which we block. But a lot of people are just going to fast play ace king. So it's certainly going to be a mandatory call versus one bet. And then it's going to be a decision on river if we face further aggression. Half pot sizing here, I think is okay from villain. That is a really nice river. That's the best river in the deck. Alrighty. So clearly, obviously, gone from bluff catching mode to now looking to play for stacks. And we face check. Interesting. Interesting. I don't think we're ever going to get check raised here. So I don't think there's much merit in betting small. I think we're probably just going to go for it all, go for all in. Like, GTO might take a different line, and that might be because there's supposed to be traps in his range, but I just don't think he's going to trap enough, which means we're never going to get jammed on if we bet small, and that's where part of the value is of betting small with our best hands. So I'm just going to go greedy and go for it all. And he can ultimately decide to call us with whatever he wants to. Um, obviously we're always going to get the money from his sets. It's just like his ace-x region when he has it, that can talk itself into call. I think we're going to make more money with that jamming line than we are by like betting small. Like, yes, we're going to get called by ace 10 more often if we bet small, but we are also going to get called sometimes when we jam. Um, and when we get called, we win a full stack. So yeah, pretty comfortable, I think, with the jam line. I'll check. We do need to wrap up the video. I think the only thing I'll say is once again, thanks everyone for your engagement with the channel. It's been really great. If you haven't liked the video, please do so if you enjoyed the comment, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Um, I have also dropped a training link for coaching in the description of the video. So if you are interested in learning more of what I do, and learning directly from me, I'm more than happy to help. So fill in the form that'll be in the link in the description, and we can get in touch if and work out if a coaching arrangement suits. So yeah, once again, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.